Welcome back. Well, yes, indeed, we are keeping our focus on the NSAS panel. Again, looking forward to that 2-week period wherein, who knows, the white paper might be out, so lots of talk about that as well. But this morning, we've got two gentlemen joining us to shed light on some of the goings-on about the report. We've got Mr. Kaide Eniton, who is a senior advocate of Nigeria and is the counsel, one of the counsels to Lagos State Government on the NSAS. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, and we will also get to see Dr. Adedosumu, MON, who is a former DG of the MASA and a public policy analyst. Good morning as well, and thank you for joining us on the program today. Okay, you get to see Dr. Adedosumu soon. He's here with us, actually. Mr. Eniton, so much, I know you know, is being said and will be said about the NSAS panel.
Definitely.
And what the state government to do, how they will approach it, how would the white paper go. But concerning some of the immediate comments that have been made about what's being circulated, perhaps I should even start by asking you, what is your impression about that document that is being circulated at the moment?
Well, that document could only have come from someone who was on the panel.
You could say for sure.
The only people who had it were members of the panel, and that was a soft copy. Who could have had a soft copy? As of the date the hard copies were being given to the government, it could only be members of the panel. So one of them deliberately leaked it for whatever purpose.
Why do you think it's deliberate?
Well, why would you put something that is not meant to be in the public if you have no intention of doing so? And I'm aware that it was leaked to a specific individual who then posted it in a group. And when it got in that group, it then went viral.
So the individual, the member of the panel didn't directly leak it to the public?
He must have. Because if the minute he leaves his hand, it's in the public domain. If something is supposed to be with me and I give it to you, then I've leaked it. And that would be deliberate. That could not have been inadvertence.
What if it didn't come from any member of the panel directly? What if it came from anyone else who was working with them?
I would not want to conjecture along that line, because whoever was working with them, would he have what a member then came out to say, yes, that is our report, but that seemed to have some errors.
It seems from all you're saying that you're literally putting question marks on the integrity of members of the panel.
I do not doubt their individual integrity. However, the fact remains that that document, that soft copy that is in the public domain, could only have come from one of them. Who exactly that was, the person's conscience tells him that he did it.
Do you think it's something that the government should investigate?
I don't think the government should bother itself about that. But what has that done? The leaking, what has it done? It's now given everyone who would want to speak to it, to read it and speak to it. Originally, I personally have not bothered to speak publicly outside of in the well of the panel about what was going on there. And it's not because one didn't have anything to say, but the appropriate thing to do is wait for the report, submit it to government, wait for the white paper, and then we all discuss the white paper.
But it appears you have an idea of who the person is directly, specifically.
I cannot say specifically this individual, but if you were to look at the avenue then one could conjecture, but I wouldn't even want to go into that.
Yeah, but you know, I asked because, I mean, when you say he leaked it, there are male and female members, but you said he. So it comes across as though you know who.
Maybe that's a function of my gender.
I'm not sure.
Maybe that's a function of my gender.
Are you by then
Yes.
confirming that this leaked report is the authentic one?
I cannot speak to the authenticity, but what I can say is that a member of the panel has publicly acknowledged that document as being the report, though this has some errors, as he called it.
That's a member. But you were counsel
Yes.
to Lagos. So you know which one is the report.
No, I do not know.
You've not seen
What I know, which is what I saw on TV,
Yeah.
is that on Monday, 2 hard copies were handed over to the governor. I saw that on TV. We were not invited.
You've not seen any of those hard copies?
No. I haven't.
But you've seen the soft copy?
Of course. Which I have taken the pains to read the 309 pages. I've taken the pains to sift through the evidence that is contained in that report, and I've taken the pains to compare it with the findings. And when that is done, you would find out that there are too many inconsistencies between evidence and finding. Unfortunately, not many people who have spoken as to the content or the findings have taken the pains to read those 309 pages.
You know, should they take the pains to read it or wait for the state government to release the document, the report itself, so that people know we're speaking to the proper document?
The government is not expected to release the report.
Why?
Panels of inquiry, according to the law, Tribunal of Inquiry's law of Lagos State, the panel would sit, take evidence, whatever their report is, they are meant to submit to government. Government will look through that report, and the government will now come up with a white paper stating, we have seen this, we accept this, we do not accept this, we do not accept, and they will put their reasons. That is what the white paper is for. It is the white paper that we are all supposed to be discussing,
So,
not the report.
what law will be broken if the state government releases the report before the white paper?
That will go contrary to the Tribunal of Inquiry law.
But there have been several occasions we know in this country. I'm very sure you're well aware of several such panels of inquiry whose report never saw the light of day until they were investigated by journalists, whose white papers never saw the light of day, whose recommendations were never taken, up at all, and which left many, many people with the sense that justice has been denied.
That is correct. But then, that is not the situation here. When it was submitted to the governor, he did say that he was setting, and he immediately set that panel up. Go and look at it, and then let us see what we are going to put out. And he gave a date of 2 weeks.
Which is 11 days from now.
Exactly. But on the same 15th, someone obviously could not wait, but went ahead and leaked that report, because by evening of the 15th, it was all over the place. I read it that night when I saw it on one of those social media fora that we all belong to, at least some of us belong to.
So what does the state government think about it?
I've not spoken with the governor.
Do you think that they will be upset with that, with this scenario?
I'm not in a position to say. But what I can say to you is that having read that report, I can show you clearly discrepancies. For instance, at page 287, the panels found medical evidence from Dr. Lawson and Dr. Aromalate of Reddington Hospital and Granville Trauma Center respectively reported at least one death at both facilities. That is not true. Pages 56 to 68 contained the evidence of Dr. Lawson of Reddington. Dr. Lawson never said anybody died in their facility. Granville, which is operated by Dr. Aromalate, his evidence is contained at page 109 to 115. He never said anything about anyone having died. He brought a list of everyone that presented at his facility over the course of about 2 or 3 days. Now, forensics. The panel at page 287 said, Sentinel Forensics Limited, engaged by panel, confirmed that multiple muzzle flashes consistent with discharge of ammunition were observed. Forensics experts also noted that at the commencement of engagement, for the most part, the muzzle flashes appeared to be directed upwards, and at other times, direction of the protesters. Experts further noted that there were instances where at least 2 persons sustained injury and all of that. But what was the evidence? Page 8 of the forensic report tendered by Sentinel says clearly there were no visible signs of bullet fragmentation or impact patterns from high-velocity projectiles. Observed fragmentation was more consistent with impact from lower-velocity projectiles. This gentleman was taking up on what he meant. He went through the entire toll gate area, went through the entire structures at the toll gate. He said he could not find anything struck by a high-velocity projectile, which is a bullet consistent with military-grade ammunition. Now, page 15, where he was talking about muzzle flashes. He says the analyst observed sparks believed to be muzzle flashes and an indication of shots fired. More muzzle flashes are observed, all appearing to be directed upwards. Referring to page 17 of the report, the type of ammunition, live or blank discharge, could not be determined from the footage. Now, this gentleman watched the LCCC footage. The experts engaged by Lagos State watched the same LCC footage, particularly as shown on CNN. What did the panel do? The panel made a buffet of the evidence, picked the one that it liked, condemned the other one as saying, oh, the person did not speak with the participants, did not speak with victims, did not speak with protesters, did not speak with any other person. However, this expert had the medical records of all the victims, or alleged victims. He had their records which were tendered by Dr. Lawson, tendered by Dr. Aromalate. Using the medical records, subjected it to examination, medical forensics, they determined that of all the victims, some were indeed shot by high-velocity projectiles after 9 p.m. But every other person was shot by low-velocity guns, meaning guns that shoot cartridges and that discharges pellets.
So what does that entail?
That means they were not shot by law enforcement agents.
So your point is that you're trying to say that contrary to what the report says, that the army deployed and the army, bullets from the army shot people, you're saying that that's not the case?
While the army at the toll gate, no one is in doubt. Did the army fire shots? No one is in doubt. But what shots were fired? General Taiwo came and he said, yes, they had live rounds, they had blank rounds, but that the blanks were deployed. And the 2 experts showed consistency in the fact that they could see from the video that after each round was discharged, they had to reload, and that was consistent with blank rounds. Now, let me go on. The testimony of the pathologist. The pathologist was summoned to bring autopsy reports of anyone who was alleged to have died in the Lekki environment. He brought 3. The first one was of a blunt force trauma to the head on the 20th. The second one...
At what time?
In the night, on Admiralty Way. That's where the corpse was picked, on Admiralty Way, in the night.
So what does that mean? Did they say the time that the person was shot?
I think that would be probably in Dr. Lawson's. But the individual,
So
hold on.
That could be 6 p.m. then?
No, it was not 6 p.m.
You say you're not sure?
Yes, but nothing says 6 p.m.
How do you say for sure it's not 6 p.m.?
Nothing says 6 p.m. So let us not go to what is not on the records.
But you're going to the same evidence, some part of it.
I am speaking to what is on the records. He brought that autopsy report saying blunt force trauma to the head.
Yes, but if they didn't
tell us...
Just a minute.
Okay.
You say if they didn't tell us what time, because you spoke about timing for some of those matters, laying the grounds to disprove some of those evidence that was there. So if we can't be sure for now...
Okay, hold on. I think I've seen the time.
Yeah.
I've seen the time.
What time was it?
1:15 a.m.
Okay. That's when the person was shot.
Was not shot. Blunt force trauma to the head. A blunt force trauma is a cudgel.
Oh, that's when the person was hit with a blunt force.
He was brought into the facility at 1:15 a.m. The person then, that's blunt force trauma. That was apparently the person the governor referred to in his first statement.
I understand
now,
that.
the second person,
hold
on, let me just...
You will get to the second one. I just want to understand you as well.
Okay, please.
Now, if you say that's when the person was brought in, but we don't have an idea of when the person sustained the injury, do we? Did the report indicate that? That's the part you say you're not sure.
The report says place of death was said to be at Lekki. This was an adult reportedly taken to Reddington Hospital in Lekki in an unconscious state on account of an open skull fracture on the 21st October at 1:15 a.m. Based on what we saw, we concluded that the death was as a result of a severe skull and brain injury, cranial-cerebral injury, which we felt was due to blunt force trauma. That is the pathology speaking. The second person was said to have been found under the Lekki-Ikoyi Bridge. The third person, and that also, the second person also had trauma to the body, blunt force.
So is your point that since they were not found at that particular spot, they could not have been part of those who were protesting and were being sustained those injuries at that spot? Is that the point you're making?
That is what the medical evidence says to us. Remember.
So it's not possible to be wounded somewhere and move elsewhere? I'm just asking.
Wounded. If you are wounded, your wound and injury should be consistent to what the allegations are. Okay. If you said the military or the police came and shot people, I expect that when you see the corpses, they will have bullet injuries.
Let's quickly
bring in... The only person, hold on, so that we are clear as to what the pathologist said. Yeah. The third person, who was said to have been found at Lekki, that was at the toll gate, on the 21st, in the evening at about 9:45 p.m.
So it didn't happen on the 20th, that's your
That
point.
did not happen on the 20th.
Dr. Ade Dosumo is also here, an MON.
He's been listening for a while.
Oh, yes, he's been here. So, well, you've been quietly listening to everything that's been said. I'm pretty sure you have some responses already, so please go ahead.
Well, thank you very much, and it's good to be here. I'm surprised that the senior advocate is looking at is not looking at the fundamentals that the report has brought out. And that is what I think we should concern ourselves with, not trying to fault the content of the report or trying to look at the consistency of whatever. I think all those ones should have been done at the panel level, which I believe that is being done. And I feel that the findings are quite mind-boggling, and to a very large extent, I want to say that I personally commend the members of that panel, led by Honorable Justice Doris Okwobi or whatever, and other eminent personalities that participated in that assignment, and for their courage for being able to speak the truth to power and coming up with their findings.
So, Dr. Dosunmu, that means that you're taking that report hook, line, and sinker, the one
Absolutely.
that is in circulation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But how do you then, relate with, because he's a counsel, he was a counsel to Lagos on that particular scenario, and he says, well, some of what we've seen there are not accurate. In fact, one member of the panel, as he also spoke, said that, well, there were some inconsistencies in that panel. How do you reconcile all of that?
Yeah, well, that does not, well, whatever inconsistency would not, I don't think that actually affected the findings of the report, or that I feel that the major findings of the report are the things we should be talking about, not the inconsistencies and all that.
So what would the major findings for you be?
Well, the major findings for me are the issues that are raised, that people were killed, the massacre that was described in the report. And to me, it's very unfortunate at this level of our development that that will still be going on, or that type of thing can happen in a country that is under a democratic rule, given the fact that Nigeria is one of the leading democracies in Africa, and we should lead by example. Government is all out. The essence of government is to protect the life and properties of citizens.
Okay.
And the citizens also have the right to participate freely, and they have the right to life, and they also have the right to express themselves. And these young people have all come out to express themselves, to protest against the brutality of the men of the SARS, and that shouldn't be a big deal. In developed climes, we see protests all over the place, and what the government or the agencies of the state do is usually to ensure that they carry out their activities in conformity with the public order. You know, they don't allow them to get out of order, not to use live ammunitions or to call in soldiers or men of the armed forces. That is not necessary. Okay. If that was not done, we wouldn't be talking about mass killing of innocent young Nigerians.
Yeah.
Has he read the report? Did he read the evidence contained in the report before going to the findings? Because you see, it is not a buffet, it's a set meal. You eat everything, page 1 to 309. Don't go to read from page 287.
Yeah.
I'm sure the good doctor has not read the report.
But Mr. Anderson, the thing is this.
Yes.
When you started out, you made reference to a member of the panel who said, well, there were errors. But I think the same member also said those errors were corrected before they then submitted to the state. And you said there were 2 hard copies that were submitted. So if the state doesn't release the corrected versions, what are people supposed to do? How do we know that what is here is not the right one that's there?
Very well. Remember, the findings that everyone is speaking to is not what, we've not seen the hard copy. All we've all seen is those 309 pages. How many of those speaking to the findings bothered to read the evidence
So you're asking them
contained
to,
in that report?
so they should still rely on the circulated one of which you said there were errors and they were corrected?
If they say it's been corrected, fine. But
Do you think it was corrected?
I don't know, because I've not seen any other thing. But what I can say is that whoever is going to speak about those 309 pages should ensure that he has read the 309 pages. And I'll show you further evidence.
Just a second, before you go there.
In the same document.
Do you, in that same document,
Yes.
I mean, the parts that you are, speaking to, they are valid, but have you also considered that part of that same leaked report that that talked about the fact that there were talks about deploying trucks with brushes and washing away what would have been evidence?
Thank you very much. That was said in the report of Forensic Sentinel as something that was picked from open source. Now, open source, go to Loma Web's, what's it called? Twitter handle, which is where they said, oh, they saw that the Loma MD said that they had commenced the cleaning of Lagos. That tweet was on the 23rd of October.
After a judicial panel of inquiry had been set.
As at the 23rd, the panel had not been named. It had not been set.
The panel had been set as at 18th or 19th of October.
No.
The panel was set up before October 20.
The NSAS panel of inquiry.
Yes, the judicial panel of inquiry. The NSAS part was just an addition.
No, the Lekki incident was the addition. As of the 28th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd, that additional term of reference relating to the Lekki toll gate was not part of the judicial panel of inquiry's terms of reference.
You do not question the time. Okay, we need to take a break.
Yes, we will.
No.
We're not done yet. No,
Okay.
Not any stretch of imagination.
I don't know.
But we'll come back to this in just a moment. Don't forget Dr. Adedosunmu. He will need to speak for a while as well. So don't go away. You can send us your comments, by the way, of what you think. But just give us a moment. We will be back.
I'm going to constitute a 4-man committee very immediately, which will be led and headed by the Honorable Attorney General, the Commissioner for Youth and Social Development, the Special Advisor Works, and the Permanent Secretary, the Cabinet Office. The 4 of them will very, very quickly look through and bring forward a white paper within the next 2 weeks that will be considered at the Lagos State Executive Council and will be gazetted as a white paper coming from the panel of inquiry. Well,
just before we get to Dr. Dosunmu, well, Mr. Nixon, yes, you were a defense attorney to Lagos State for the NSAS, and so people think, well, yeah, it's natural that you defend some of those positions previously, but you did say that you didn't question the individual integrity of those members, but then you were not questioning that particular report, because even Dr. Dosunmu said that he's surprised that you're focusing on some of the minor things, and then it comes across to him as though Lagos is, or you're trying to poo-poo the objective and then the findings of that report.
You see, the integrity of members may not be in doubt. It has nothing to do with the evidence on the basis of which they came to finding. If the evidence does not add up with the finding, it can be simply that they fail to appreciate even the evidence before them. It has nothing to do with integrity. I'm not talking about integrity. I'm talking about the evidence contained in the 309 pages and the findings contained in the 309 pages.
Okay.
My friend, my brother here was talking about brushes. Mm-hmm. What was the evidence? The panel, it was at page 296, that the panel said 3 trucks with brushes were brought, and that there is something on Twitter as of October 20th. That is not correct. Before the panel, until this moment, there is no video to corroborate that statement. Remember, before the panel, what was the evidence? Somebody said they were there on the morning of the 21st. There were journalists. They had cameras. Her evidence was that there were news reporters. Now, not one of all the news reporters that were on that location on the morning of the 21st had sight of these trucks with brushes. Twitter handle, you can still go there. As of this morning, you know, you can always find out whatever had been on Twitter. No problem. Internet never forgets. That statement that was shown was on the 23rd. The trucks that were there are these open back 3-ton trucks. That's one agent of government, right? Now, yes, internet never forgets. We can always you can always check. Let me also go then to the 21st of October, which you spoke about, 2020. A statement by LCC press release. Yes. It's out there for everybody to see, which they tendered to the panel on that day. And it says, quote, Lekki Concession Company Limited, LCC, strongly condemns, and that's in caps, the shooting of peaceful protesters at the Admiralty Circle Toll Plaza yesterday, 20th October 2020. Yes. LCC would never, that's in caps, support or condone such unscrupulous acts meted out on unarmed protesters. Since the commencement of the protest, LCC has allowed free access, and it goes on. And it goes on. This is what the panel relied on. It was tendered. They were the ones who said it. LCC, an agent of government. What is contained in that statement? Shooting. There is of unarmed. No doubt that shots were fired. We all saw it on TV. That evening of the 20th, we all saw it. Now, hold on. Did LCC speak to anyone being killed? Shots were fired. We saw that on live TV. Shooting of unarmed protesters. We saw shooting on live TV. But what we did not see was anyone being, because your journalists were there, it was on channels that I saw it, and I also saw your anchor speaking to Dr. Patutomi, or Professor Patutomi, that evening. We all saw the soldiers there shooting into the air. Professor Patutomi on ground? He wasn't physically there. He was not physically there, so but the interview was conducted right there. No interview was conducted there. But so why are you referencing Professor Tony? No, I'm telling you that we all saw soldiers shooting into the air. We all saw the LCC footage thereafter in the well of the panel. We all saw that. The panel's forensic experts went and looked at that footage. The state expert went and looked at the same footage. They both came back saying that the soldiers fired blank rounds.
Can we look at that footage for a bit?
Please.
Is this the one you're talking about?
Yes. And you can see the muzzle flashes going up. You can see the muzzle flashes.
Senator,
Yes.
this that we are looking at is an activity being performed by security officials who are supposed to be protecting the people who are not armed.
Who had no business there in the first place?
Military men who had no business there in the first place, shooting at people, Nigerians they're supposed to be protecting, who are not armed and who are just simply exercising a constitutional.
And soldiers are trained differently from police. They are trained to kill.
And you do not see anything wrong with that.
Now,
They're shooting into the air with what intent? To scare?
evidence was laid at the panel in respect of this.
Is there a room?
Hold on.
Mr. Senator, just
Yes.
a second. Is there a room in law
Yes.
for morals?
Morals.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Morals have no place in law. Law is, what does the letter of the law say? What are the facts? What is the evidence presented? Bring that evidence, couple it with the provision of the law. If they add up, make a finding. If they don't, make a finding.
Okay.
This that we watched here just now shows clearly muzzle flashes. The experts, as well as he was not on ground, all agreed that those muzzle flashes were consistent with the firing of blank rounds. You see, that shots were fired, those were the shots.
If that were the case, why were there denials from the very high-ranking government officials that soldiers were not even there in the first place? It could have been thugs who were... All sorts came through at that point in time.
No.
It shows intent to conceal and deny those things.
Even I think it was Shakespeare that said, the devil does not know what is in any man's heart. I do not know any man's intent. What I know is what I see.
All right. Well, Dr. Dosunmu, what do you think?
Well, I think the main issues that we should be talking about now is the implementation of the report. Yes, the white paper is being expected, and we hope that that will be done very fast. And the government should go a step further to ensure that the reports, the findings of the panel is implemented. Those that are culpable should be made to face justice so that this can deter others in future. We can't run a country on the basis of sentiments. Things must be done properly.
But you can hear him quoting some facts, at least from his own perspective. Can we run away from those facts that he's quoting?
Well, I feel those facts in quote are not enough to water down the content of the report, the major findings of the report.
But you know he is counsel to the state government.
Yeah, he's counsel to the state government.
Clearly, some of his suggestions or possibly recommendations, should the state government find it relevant, could be considered in the white paper. And if that is, what would be your own expectations?
Well, I feel the government has a lot of access to a lot of information and a lot at their disposal. Even one of the counsel to the government should also advise the government on what should be done, because the government has really, you see, what the government needs to do. I want to say that the government should take full credit of the outcome of this investigation. The first thing the government has done by setting up a judicial panel of inquiry and then later investigative panel is a good thing, and they are commended for that. But to now try to chicken out in the middle of the would amount to not being honest. No. The government should go full hog and ensure that the reports, the findings of the reports are properly implemented.
Okay,
and
we'll get
take credit for that.
We'll get to play something regarding to what you've just said about the panel, is it binding or not, in just a moment. But, Mr. Senator, the soldiers also confessed to the panel that they fired both live and blank bullets. Was that right? Yes or no?
That's correct.
Exactly.
But they never said they shot at any individual. Well, now, let me speak to that. You asked a question.
I know.
Let me speak to it.
Just a minute, because you said yes.
Based on evidence on the record.
Yeah, I just said yes or no.
I don't know.
I only said whether they said that yes or no, and that's it.
I don't do conjecture.
It's not conjecture.
I will back up.
They spoke to the panel that they fired both live and what you spoke about. Is a yes.
However, you just seen that footage.
What was
that footage?
I only asked respecting.
Hold on. That footage was of soldiers firing.
But you know,
now,
Senator,
what is consistent with an individual being shot with a live round?
Well, the thing is this.
It is not in any footage.
You know, in law, you always
watched.
talk about the intendment of the law. In this particular case, soldiers who are trained to kill, they go to a venue where there was a peaceful protest, because the LCC said it in their press statement that it was peaceful. They were peaceful. And so if you then send soldiers there to a peaceful protest, what do you expect them to go do? To go sightseeing? And secondly, is it that the guns that the police use cannot fire into the air? Why did soldiers have to go there to go fire into the air?
Now, we're losing sight of one thing. Evidence before the panel was that as of that moment, the whole of Lagos State had been paralyzed. Policemen
According to who? The whole of Lagos was paralyzed? In the same Lagos where we were?
As of the 20th.
I don't think so.
As of the 20th.
We moved around.
You moved around because you were journalists.
It wasn't paralyzed.
Hold on. I had lawyers who went to court, who finished by 2, but did not get back to the mainland until 7, because the whole of Lagos had been locked down. What happened was...
The government declared a curfew.
A curfew was declared.
There was a curfew.
As at that time, the evidence before the panel was that, of course, if there is a curfew, that's the paralysis of the state.
So why would the soldiers go shoot when there's a curfew?
The soldiers'
Remember, this was
evidence,
after the curfew. This was after the curfew.
The soldiers' evidence was that they were deployed to cover the Lekki-Epe corridor.
After the curfew. This was after the curfew, the shooting, wasn't it?
The shooting was after declaration of curfew.
So why were they shooting when there's already a curfew?
They were going somewhere. The evidence, I'm not talking about what is not in that 309 pages.
Let's listen to Mr. Falana for a moment. He was also on the show yesterday, and this is what he had to say about the reports being binding on all or not. Let's have a listen.
Some of them have submitted their reports. Some are writing their reports. Some have not concluded sittings. So what has happened in Lagos is just one out of 28 reports that we're expecting. And these panels of inquiry were set up under the law, under the Tribunal of Inquiry law in each of the states. Whoever is recommended for sanction or prosecution, whether you're a federal public officer or a state public officer or a private individual, you can be prosecuted under the law. By the way, murder or culpable homicide, manslaughter, and so on and so forth are state offenses. So if a federal officer commits murder in Lagos, he's going to be charged before the Lagos High Court. The Federal High Court has no jurisdiction on it. The Federal Attorney General cannot prosecute him because it's a state offense.
In addition to what you're going to say, as well as Dr. Dosunmu, the thing is, much as you cited some errors which you thought were inconsistent with what actually transpired, if the panel report is 80% accurate, why wouldn't it be binding on all?
Accuracy is not about what you have written in English. Accuracy of the report is the evidence consistent with the findings. If I am saying to you that on critical aspects, the evidence of the forensic expert employed by the panel itself is inconsistent with the finding of the panel, the evidence of witnesses that the panel said they relied on heavily, Sarah Ibrahim, Dabira Yuku, Kamsi Chuku, these were individuals that gave evidence that showed that they did not know what they were talking about. You know, read the report.
It's
you
going
see,
to be,
let everyone read the evidence in that report.
The thing about this is that if they're asking people to read what is in the report,
yes,
and they say there were errors, and
it's not error. I'm not talking about typo errors. I'm talking about fundamental. It's like a judgment which, on its face, the evidence does not support the result.
Are you saying that there was no killings as a result of this? No
killings.
Deaths? No deaths as a result of this?
At Lekki Toll Gate, there is no evidence before the panel.
You are not saying there is no killing. You say there is no evidence of killing.
I was not there. I am not trained to listen to hearsay. So, I am trained to react to hard evidence. What was the evidence that was presented and is contained in those 309 pages?
This comes across...
If that evidence, it cannot support the finding, then that is it.
This comes across as though it's laying grounds for the state or the white paper to come up with something different other than what is already out there. And that's going to be difficult for people to accept.
Listen, and I'm saying read the report.
I'm telling you how it comes across.
Now, how does court decisions go normally? Facts I looked at. Hold on.
This is different from that scenario.
It is a judicial panel of
but
inquiry.
it also says it shouldn't just be done. It should be seen to have been done. So there are two components. Dr. Sumu has been waiting for a while. Dr. Sumu, you've heard some of this. So tell us what's going through your mind.
Well, I'm just wondering whether...
I think Dr. Sumu should read the
report. I'm wondering whether my learned brother can change the perception of the public about the report. Because the report has gone viral. People have read it. And the findings are mind-boggling. And to now say that you want to tone down that because of one or two minor evidential omission or whatever is out of place. No. I think what the government should be looking at is how to implement this report and come out clean. Since the government started set up the judicial panel of inquiry, and then now they have the findings. You see, one thing I realize is that in this climb, we are not used to people speaking truth to power. You know, a judicial panel that was set up by government in place is now telling the government that, look, the agencies of state were wrong in their approach, and certainly some things were also wrong and they are saying it to the government. The government should accept this and learn from it so that in future, things like this will not repeat itself. That is what we should be looking at, not to try to tone down the report or change the perception of the public and all that. People have made up their mind. They've read the report. Everybody, we don't need to go and read the 309 pages of the report. You don't need everybody to go and read the 309. It's your own job. You are advising government on it. So maybe you serve on the panel. So you are supposed to, but that does not, we just want to look at the summaries of the findings.
Okay. Well, Mr. Nito, would you be recommending, if you had to the Lagos State government, that this report should be discountenanced?
My view, if I were to take a decision on this report, I will look at the evidence contained in the report. I will look at the findings. Definitely, there are findings that make sense, regardless of the evidence, that police need training. Definitely, the police need training, that there should be psych evaluation and all of that. Those are very good.
What would be your recommendation to the government of Lagos State, if you had your way?
If I had my way?
Yes.
If I had my way, based on what I can see in the evidence as a lawyer, I'm not talking sentiment, as a lawyer, based on the evidence contained in that report, there are some findings that should be thrown out. Based on the evidence in the report, there are findings that are not consistent with that evidence, and those findings should be thrown out. There are findings that are consistent with evidence. Those definitely should stand.
You can say that because you were counsel and you were there.
Exactly.
The evidence is in the public domain. It is there. People should read it.
The report which you say is not authentic, so one wonders how people will, internalize all of those scenarios.
Listen, Chamberlain.
It's,
we are all, every one of us who has had cause to comment on this report, we are commenting on what is in the public domain. We do not know what was submitted to government.
The ball is in the court of the state then, because the white paper is supposed to tell them how they will implement the report.
Let me give you...
I'm afraid we can't go further. I'm really afraid we're out of time. We're really out of time. But I mean, Dr. Dosimu will complain if we keep going on. Because half as much as because so justice needs to be seen to have been done in this case. So we have to thank you for coming up. Mr. Kai Dianinto, the Senior Advocate of Nigeria and the Counsel, Defense Counsel to Lagos on the ASS panel. As Dr. Adedosumu, MON, former DG the Master, Public Policy Analyst. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for your time today.
Thank you very much.
All right, so we will be back in a moment. Don't go away.